Welcome to the Tuesday Weekend, the podcast that has been tipping more than 20% for decades now. We are talking this week about changes in customer behavior that we have seen in the couple of decades that we have both worked in the restaurant industry. And now, sure, there's the pandemic. And while there are definitely things that are different after the pandemic than they were before, there are a lot of these behaviors that really had started long ago and they got exasperated by the pandemic for both good and bad. And we'll get into some of that. But oh yeah, joining me, I should introduce Nick. Hey Nick, how's it going?
Going pretty good. Weather's been good in San Diego. We're super busy with conventions again. We have one this week called PitCon, which is not actually a convention for the city of Pittsburgh being held in another city.
Aw.
It's actually a big laboratory hardware type of thing where you're doing experiments and stuff, and the different machines and stuff they have capable to do it. It's pretty cool, actually. This one's been going since Saturday. We're busy all through the week. We've got Crossed Festival here Saturday and Sunday this coming week as well, which is it's like a big EDM thing out here. It's 20, 30,000 people. It's down on the waterfront, literally 5 blocks away from my house. So if I want to listen to some really good EDM, I just have to open my patio door and relax and enjoy.
Right on.
So yeah, no, but everything's going good. Yeah.
Well, then about customer changes, what would you say is the biggest difference in behavior today versus 20 years ago?
The biggest changes I've noticed is that in the industry, we want to take the best care of the guests that we can. I mean, you don't even really use the word customer very often anymore. It's a guest. Well, the guest has more than realized this and now feels that they are 100% right 100% of the time. That has been the biggest change that I've noticed. I had a friend telling me today at a happy hour that last night he had a guest order an old fashioned and then go to another bartender. Hey, I don't think he put alcohol in this old fashioned. Now he stood right in front of him and watched him make it. And then the other bartender's just going like, okay, I'll just make you another one. Just give me that one. And, and he's like, yeah, that's an old fashioned. That's got liquor in it. It's just like, yeah. First off, making an old fashioned without liquor is, I mean, you could use iced tea, I guess, but who gets a glass of bourbon with an ice cube and says there's no liquor in this? The only thing in that glass is liquor. Literally, the only thing in that glass is liquor except for the sugar.
Right.
And that's not like a, oh my God, that happened. It's like, that's a regular daily thing now.
I had this past weekend a guest who was ordering Palomas. And for the second one, he's like, yeah, that was great. Just put tequila in this one. But, just like, ha, ha, ha. And then a little bit later in the evening, somebody had ordered a double and there was the half splash left in the bottle. And he's like, kill the bottle. And it's like, well, I was about to, but now that you have told me to,
yeah.
I don't want to.
Yeah. 15 years ago, I'd opened one of the bars I'd opened and these guys were coming in and they were good regulars and stuff. And then one of them just like, well, what do we got to do to get free shots in this place? And I'm like, you were doing great. They were coming, but not anymore. You just kind of
you pay for everything you order.
Yeah. But what I'm trying to say is that back in the day, I know when you told someone you were out of something, or you told someone that you didn't have something, they were okay. I will order something else. They wouldn't. Well, why not? Where it's like, and now people are like, why don't you have this? And it's like, well, we ran out. We were busy.
Even if it's jokingly, well, get the manager, get them to get some more. And it's like you are both wasting my time and just annoying the shit out of me right now. That kind of humor is never funny to the recipient.
No. The restaurant I was at a couple of years ago, we were out of bread because everybody had to have bread bowls for their chowder, which we don't actually do. But some of our servers are the bad servers who are just like, oh yeah, whatever you want, we'll do it. Oh, you want a porterhouse, half medium well, half medium rare? Yeah, we can totally do that. Mm-hmm. I mean, those servers. So we run out of bread and this guy's like, well, I can just go to the store and buy bread. And it's like, we can't do it. That's not how it works. This guy actually went to the store and bought bread for the restaurant. And the manager's like, I can't serve any of this. Yeah. It's against the law.
Yeah.
I mean, but people, that's how people are now.
There's a whole chain of custody for especially frozen foods or seafood. Everything needs to be documented and maintained.
100%. Yeah. And it's not just from the pandemic. They were getting bad for the last 10 years. Sure. It's just, the eye rolling, like make a strong island. You're like, yeah, buddy, I know you're here to get drunk.
Yeah.
Also, you're in a brunch place, so
Yeah. Right.
you know,
Yeehaw.
time and place. But everyone, we were discussing earlier, when it first started, and my manager started comping stuff instead of just getting them something new, or say, you know, here's a gift card for the next time you come in, we'll get it right that time,
Right.
or you know, whatever. They're just like, oh, we'll just comp the whole meal, and I'm like, no, you won't, because also when they do that, the tables around everyone all hear that, and then they start complaining.
Sure.
I mean, since I got to do a lot of service industry stuff in the great state of Utah, which is thrifty, is the nicest way I can put it. I mean, we're talking people who, if there's lemons on the table in a seafood place and sugar, they're just ordering waters and they're making their own lemonade with the lemon. You're just like, what are you doing? And I would be like, you know, I'm charging you for 4 lemonades. Lemons cost money. And they're just like, well, then why are they on the table? I'm like, for the seafood. Yeah. Oh, well, we're just going to, I'm like, no, you don't get to come and make your own lemonade. It's that people actually think that's fine. They didn't used to. Now they do. Now they fight for being able to do free stuff, get stuff cheap, get stuff free, complain about everything. That and the whole eruption of food allergies that apparently didn't exist until 2011.
I think the peanut allergy was discovered in 1998, but yes.
But what I mean is everyone's got a gluten allergy now. Really? Mm-hmm. I'm like, you're 30 years old. 10 years ago, you didn't have a gluten allergy. There was no gluten allergies. 20 years, I mean, there was celiacs. That's what everyone had. That is the gluten allergy. Everything else is just kind of oh, I get a little puffy, or I don't feel good after I eat wheat. It's you don't have celiacs. You don't have a gluten allergy. 20 years ago, that it just didn't exist. If someone ate something that they didn't feel good after eating, guess what? They didn't eat it. Well, or they'd say, hey, this doesn't make me feel good. And you'd be like, okay, we could probably skip that in the menu.
This is just a side tangent. There's no way that you sit down at a table, eat some food, and by the time the check comes, the food you just ate gave you food poisoning so bad, norovirus takes a day to incubate in your system. So if you're feeling ill, maybe you overate, maybe it's some other thing, maybe it's what you ate yesterday, but it is unlikely, unless that potato salad's been sitting unrefrigerated for the last 12 hours, that in the space of a meal, you will have a reaction to it.
Yeah, 100%. I had a guy, and this is 20 years ago. I'm walking into work in the morning. I'd worked the night before. It was one of those weeks, one of those jobs, whatever. And this guy walks up to me in the parking lot 2 blocks away from work, and he's kind of still wearing the clothes from the night before, like suit, like jacket, tie, whatever. Mm-hmm. And he's obviously just been out all night. And he's just like, hey, man, you know, that seafood I ate yesterday made me feel pretty sick. And I'm going like, oh, I'm sorry about that. I'll let my manager know. And he's like, well, can you just like refund my money?
Yeah.
I'm like, you want me to hand you money back in the parking lot for what you paid for last night? I'm the server. I'm not the restaurant. No, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, no.
But
that is not how that works.
That is the people now. That's actually how they feel. It's like, well, you just give us our money back. And we're just like, no, we're not giving you the meal for free. We're not giving you your money back. Managers do that. We used to joke about it back in the day, and still to this point, people are like, well, the customer is always right. It's like, yeah, man, that's the Sears and Roebuck Mail Order Foundation slogan from the 1850s. The customer is not right when they order medium rare chicken.
Yeah, no.
Had that this weekend. Like, we can't do it. It's against the law. We cannot cook it. Oh, you could cook it how I want it. And I'm like, no, we can't. No, it's against the law. We can't serve that.
But it's chicken. You can't get salmonella from that.
Then you have to explain what salmonella is, and then people have a chicken allergy. I have a chicken allergy. Okay, you had salmonella once because it was undercooked, but now I'm allergic to chicken entirely.
Yeah, did you undercook it at home like that?
Yeah. And it's like, no, it happens. It always happens at a restaurant. I don't know where they suddenly decided that they're in charge of the restaurants, and I don't quite know when restaurants decided. Some restaurants really just leaned into it and said, "Oh yeah, sure, whatever they want, just get it for them."
That actually segues very nicely into the one other thing I wanted to mention in the first block is kids. And now, sure, I work at a casino. I do not deal with children. If you're under 21, you cannot be in there. Well, all right, if you're in a stroller, but, you know, I'm not serving you a drink. But from my friends who serve in regular restaurants, just the complete lack of mindfulness when it comes to your children in public when I was a kid, if I misbehaved, first there would be a warning. Second time, I go sit out in the car until the rest of the family is done with their meal.
Exact
And
same thing. Yeah.
that is how it worked. And
Yeah.
I only ever did it once, and I could even tell you what restaurant that happened at. It was called the Family Square on Route 53 in Bolingbrook, because I remember how mad I was sitting in the car, and I must have been 6. But it only took the once, because that I was behaved in restaurants from that point forward. But I'm not trying to blame the current generation of newish parents or parents of young children that they're unable to control them, but some of them just don't seem to care.
Not at all. That's been years and years and years. I mean, this is all the way back when I was in college in the 90s, and some little kids running around this place, like just doing whatever he wants to. And then he runs into this guy getting out of a chair and falls down and starts crying, and half the restaurant clapped.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, why are you clapping? Because my son got hurt. It's like, your son's been running around this restaurant for 25 minutes and you haven't said a word or not. I mean, working, I've had to take children back to tables because their kids are bothering other tables. And they just like, oh, well, it's my fault. It's not them. It's like, hey, your kids are bothering these tables. Like, oh, well, they're fine. And I'm like, no, they're not fine. They need to stay seated at your table. This is your table. They don't get to go run around the restaurant and play.
Well, and I don't know how much of a factor this was. It just the places my parents took me as a kid, but it was often the neighborhood place that we go to so frequently that I'm not going to embarrass myself even as a kid. It's like, I want to be welcome back next time. I'm not going to, act a fool or make a huge mess for them to clean up after me, because I want them to be happy to see us when we walk in.
Now, and we're not talking little kids. I mean, a child under the age of 3 can take a handful of rice and get a nice 15 square yard spread out of that somehow.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
But we're talking like the 6, 8, 10, 12-year-old kids who know better and should know better. And their parents like, hey, stop doing that.
Right.
But the parents never don't say stop doing that anymore. They've got blinders on. They're just talking to themselves like, we're out eating. I don't care if my kid's throwing spaghetti and meatballs at the table next to us. Right. They just be like, hey, tell your kid to stop doing that. And they're like, well, don't tell me how to raise my kids. And I'm like, I am telling you to tell your child to stop throwing food at other people in a restaurant.
Sure. I'm telling you
like,
to get off your phone.
Your entire family to leave.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, well, we didn't do anything wrong. And I'm like, your kid's throwing food at the table next to you guys, and you guys haven't said a word.
Your child is ruining the experience for a number of other guests. So either you stop it or I will. And I'm happy to, but you're not going to like it.
One time back in the day, they just like, well, you can't tell us what to do with our kids. And I'm like, no problem. And I went to every table around them. Is this table's kid bothering you? Yep. Is this table? I'm like, okay, fine, no problem. I walked up and like, you guys are done. Yeah, here's your tab. And the guy's like, what the hell is this? And I'm like, you have ruined the experience of every table around you because of your children. So you're going to pay for their meals. We're not, because we didn't do it wrong. You did. It was like a $900 tab. He's like, you're kidding. I'm like, no, and you're not leaving. I will call the cops if you don't pay this.
Right. I mean, and now, as you said, the small children, all right, if there is an infant crying, I'm not going to get upset. That's not ruining my dinner. All right, now, sure, maybe be a little judicious about the restaurants you take that small child into. Maybe not the steakhouse. Again, like you said, there's a difference between the kids old enough to know better, or certainly old enough to, you should be able to discipline them or snap them back into behavior somehow. Or put
that's on you as a parent. That's not on the restaurant.
That is on you as a parent. You know what? If you have to, put a screen in front of them and shut them up. That's all I'm looking for.
Yeah, all right. I don't care.
And I think on that note, we're going to take a quick break here, and we will get back to more changes in the restaurant industry.